Hello. Today's practice is going to be a gentle after work wind down stretch. This one is going to be particularly good if you have been working on your feet a lot today. So ideally if you're a commuter and you had to stand in a busy train, or if you're a nurse or a teacher or you work in hospitality, you've on your feet a lot, we're going to do a lot of lower body stretches. This is going to be a yin yoga practice. So we're going to hold each stretch for around 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes. This really allows us to relax into the pose, just to allow the fascia, the connective tissues in the body, to relax and release some of the tension that they're holding. So it won't feel quite the same as a very active stretch, or say a hatha yoga practice where you're actively engaging your muscles. Rather, we're looking for a more passive style of relaxing into the pose, allowing gravity or any props that we're using to help us to really let go. This actually produces a deeper stretch in the long run, but it can feel a little bit unfamiliar the first time that you do it because it feels like you're not stretching as actively as you should be. So as a good guide for the stretches, if you think about 0 to 10 being a scale of intensity, with 10 being actually painful, and 7 or 8 being that kind of active stretch you might get if, for example, you were doing a half butterfly with a straight back and just pulling yourself forward, and my leg is very engaged and I'm looking for a really active stretch along that leg. If you were going to do this as a yin pose, then you would just be coming to your edge, the point where your hips naturally want to stop when you lean forward, and allowing yourself to relax into the pose. As you can see, it looks very different. However, what I'm feeling along the back of my leg is still a really nice stretch, all the way from the soles of my foot, all the way up the back of my shin, thigh, and into my glute and even my low back. But in terms of intensity level, it's more a 4 or a 5 rather than a 7 or an 8. So when you're judging where to hold in these poses, try and think along those lines. If this was active and it would be a 7 or an 8, you want to be about a 4 or a 5. And that's because we're holding them for such a long period of time. And it's through resting in the pose and finding stillness that we do that deeper stretching work. It's also a really lovely practice just for quietening the mind and kind of letting go of the day, letting the busyness, maybe letting any worries or ruminations go, and just allowing yourself to focus on these small sensations in the body and really come back into a sense of your body at the end of the day. Okay, I think I've talked more than enough. So let's come down onto our backs. In terms of props, by the way, we're going to be using a strap. So you might want to grab a strap, a yoga strap if you've got one. You really don't need one, just maybe the belt of a dressing gown, for example, a tie, a scarf, any kind of not too stretchy length of fabric. So you can use a TheraBand, but they actually have quite a lot of give to them. The other thing that I have is a bolster, just for the final pose, but if you don't have one of these, don't worry, I'll give you other options. Okay, so coming down onto your back, and we're just going to take the strap or the belt or whatever you're using and just loop it around the ball of your foot. Doesn't matter which side you start on, we're going to do both. And I'm keeping my left foot on the ground, my right foot is up towards the ceiling. The back of my head, the back of my body are really firmly resting on the mat. And I'm just applying very slight pressure to this strap to start to pull this leg towards me, just until I get that sense of a hamstring stretch along the back of the leg that is around about a 4 or a 5, which for me is around about here. You can absolutely keep a bend in your knee. It can even be quite a big bend if you wanted. Really just depends on the flexibility in your hamstring. So just experiment a little bit for the first minute or so, maybe stretching and pointing, or gently pulling the leg towards you until you find that slight sense of sensation along the back of the leg, but it's not too deep. And then you just want to be able to hold the strap there with the back of the arms resting comfortably on the mat. And this is where we're going to stay for about 1.5 minutes. So starting to come into this gentle stretch on the back of the legs. This is a nice moment to start to come into your breathing. So maybe noticing, where is your breath sitting this evening? If it's been a busy day, if you've been rushing a lot or in a lot of meetings, maybe it's a bit short, a bit shallow. Let's just observe where it's sitting. And then see if you can start to deepen your breath into your abdomen. So as you breathe in, allowing your diaphragm to expand, your belly to rise. And as you breathe out, allowing your belly to fall, and the back of your body getting heavier on the mat with the exhale. Notice if any tension has crept up into your shoulders, your arms, your hands, or your jaw. Just take a couple more breaths here, just really allowing your body to relax onto the mat. And then we're going to bring the strap over into the left hand. You can bring your right hand out to the side. Just start to open that right leg out. And you can let the left knee kind of fall out to the other side, be a little bit of a counterbalance. And as you're holding onto the strap with your left hand, I want to use just a little bit of tension through the left arm, just to kind of keep the leg stretching. You're going to get a nice stretch now through the groin, the inner part of the thigh. But you don't want that left hip to start to roll up off the mat. We're not coming into a twist. Your leg might be a lot further down, and maybe as we rest here, your leg might come closer to the ground, but it absolutely doesn't have to. Let's just take some slow, deep breaths here. The only part of the body that should be working here is that left arm, maybe a little bit through the left hip, providing that counterbalance, but keeping that right leg really relaxed. And then gently bring the leg back up towards the ceiling. You're going to swap the strap into the right hand, stretch the left leg away from you. And here you can have the bolster or some cushions to the left of you if you like. We're now going to bring that leg across the body. Maybe you want to bring that left arm out to the side. And you can just hold the strap and let the leg naturally sink. Or you could bring it down onto that bolster. And here your right hip will lift up. And again, breathing deeply into whatever expression of the pose feels right for you. You're going to feel this stretch now to the outside of the hip and down the IT band. Letting the upper body relax. and be heavy. And taking some more nice deep breaths here. And then gently rolling onto your back, and just bring the knee in towards the chest, remove the strap, and just stretch that right leg away from you. Let's just pause for a moment flat on the mat so that you can feel into the right leg and the left leg. Just notice any differences between the two. You might want to take a little wiggle or a bit of a stretch. And then we'll go to the other side. So bringing the right foot, or whichever leg you didn't do, onto the mat. Bringing the strap around the ball of the left foot. And again, just play for a moment. We're going to go into our yin stretch. So just experiment with finding where is that kind of 4 or 5 of intensity. And once you think you have it, just adjust the strap so that you can hold it with the upper arms relaxed on the mat. Right foot is on the mat, back of the head, back of the body are heavy. The only thing that's really working a little bit is the hands, just to pull down on that strap, keeping the left leg relaxed and coming into this about 1.5 minutes on the left hand side. Coming back into your deep diaphragmatic breathing. Maybe noticing how you're feeling about this practice. How are you feeling about the slowness of it, about requiring the strap to do the work rather than working at it yourself? You're someone who, is quite sort of capable, high functioning, quite a busy person. You do a lot for other people. It can be quite an odd experience to do yin yoga, where you're really allowing gravity to do the work. It feels counterintuitive that you get a better stretch by doing less. It can even feel a little bit challenging to be still at the end of the day. So just notice where your thoughts are going. Notice how you're feeling emotionally about the practice. Without criticism, without any judgment, any right or wrong, just observing, just taking in some information about yourself. Just acknowledging where you are tonight. Notice if you've tensed up. Just relax your jaw, your neck, your shoulders again. And then let's transfer the strap into the right hand and gently allow that left leg to open out to the side. You could bring your left arm out for a little counterbalance, maybe let the right knee drop to the side. Taking deep breaths here into this deep stretch through the inside of the hip, the groin. And then gently bring that leg up towards the ceiling. Stretch that right leg down. Swap the strap into the hands. Last with these stretches, just letting that leg come over. Left hip can lift. You could prop up that foot if you like, or just use the strap to feel into a nice IT band stretch. Big breaths. I'm going to gently come back, release the strap, take a moment, legs out in front of you, arms overhead perhaps, a little stretched, or any other movements you'd like to make, maybe bringing the knees into the chest, a little rock. And we're going to roll over onto our abdomens. Coming down initially, making a little pillow for your head, your forehead with your hand. Again, doesn't matter which leg you start with first, just resting your forehead on your hand, bringing the foot towards the glute. This may well be enough for you, or you could come back, take hold of that foot, gently pulling that foot in towards the glute. Just keeping the whole of the front of the body really heavy on the mat here. Breathing deeply. See if you can really kind of let those legs go soft. Make sure that the left knee is pressing down on the mat. Just looking for that slight engagement around the front of the thigh. Staying here for about a minute.
Let's gently release that foot. Swap the hand that's supporting your forehead. Bring the other foot up towards the glutes. And if you'd like, reach back, taking hold of the top of that foot, just bringing it in a little bit closer to the glute, keeping everything relaxed, everything heavy on the mat. And coming back to those deep breaths. And just noticing how it feels to breathe deeply into the front of the body now that we're facing down. And you also breathe into the side of the body, expand your breath into the rib cage. Maybe even feel it in the back of the lungs and the back of the body. Remembering not to overstretch. I'm going to gently let that foot go. Just pause for a moment, just to feel into the front of the legs. And then we're going to come into Sphinx pose. So just giving the legs a break for a moment. Just a small upper body stretch now. So the further you walk the arms away from you, the smaller the back bend will be here. So, this might be fine, or you might want to walk them in a little bit more and have more of a back bend. So just take about a minute to work out where you want to feel the stretch through the upper back, the mid back, the shoulders. Just avoid any sense of pinching through the low back. And then once again, let's come to stillness. And you relax the legs as much as possible here, letting the hips be heavy. The slight engagement through the muscles of the upper arms just to keep you in this position. But try to avoid tensing up through the shoulders or the jaw. Coming back to your breath. Coming back to stillness at the end of the day. We'll take about a minute and a half here. And let's gently release out of this pose. And we're just going to take a little counter pose. Just press back onto your knees. Just for a moment, coming into a gentle child's pose. Knees as wide apart as you would like. Arms can be forward or back. Forehead resting down on the mat. And just bringing a nice curve through the upper back between the shoulders into the lower back and hips. Let's just take 5 deep breaths here. We're going to gently come out of this child's pose. We're going to be moving into a pigeon pose. I'm going to give you a couple of options here. Now, full expression of pigeon pose. We're just going to bring the right knee behind the right wrist. This foot can be parallel to the mat or pointing in much more towards your hip. Really depends on your anatomy. Bringing that left leg behind you. You could be up here on your hands. You could come down on your forearms. You could come down onto a little pillow made of your hands. You could bring something underneath your hip if it's lifting up a lot. You could also use a bolster or some cushions here, which can be really, really nice just to make the pose really relaxing and restorative. If none of those work, then you'll roll over onto your back. Coming down onto your back, just crossing your right ankle over your left knee, drawing that left knee in, gently holding at the front of the shin or the back of the thigh. Again, finding that 4 or 5 of intensity, and just hold that pose instead. And if that even feels too much, then just keep the foot on the floor, gently pressing that knee open and relaxing the upper body. So find whichever version of pigeon pose you would like to take. I'm going to use the bolster, I think, since it's the end of the day and I want to relax. Coming down, find a nice comfy position, thinking again about that intensity level. You want a nice stretch through the glute, through the outside of the right hip, but nothing that you can't relax into. And again, come back to slow, deep breaths, finding stillness, and just allowing yourself to reset at the end of the day. Going to gently change sides. So if you were down on a bolster or on your tummy, take your time to come back up, move the props out the way, straighten that leg behind you, take a little wiggle, a little rock of your hips. If you're on your back, maybe you'd like to take some little windscreen wipers. Just whatever movements feel like they're going to release from that deep hip opener. Glute stretch. Okay, and then let's just find that pose on the other side. It may feel quite different from one side to the other. That's totally fine. Just coming into the pose, bringing yourself down. And if you were resting your head on one side, just maybe bring yourself to rest your head on the other side so that you're not stretching your neck in just one position. And again, coming back into some deep, supportive breaths. When you're ready, gently start to bring yourself out of the pose. Taking any little movements to stretch out the hip or the leg or the low back. We're going to come down onto our backs for a final pose. Just coming into a reclined butterfly. So coming down onto your back, bringing the soles of your feet together, letting the knees drop out to the sides. You could add cushions or blocks underneath your knees here if you wanted them. And just bringing the arms, if you'd like, up to a kind of cactus shape, just for a little bit of an opening through the shoulders. This has been a very low body intensive practice. We're just opening up the chest, opening up the shoulders, opening up the hips. And starting to come back to that sense we had at the start of the practice of the whole of the back of the body in contact with the mat. Just feeling the natural weight of the body, pressing the back of the head, back of the arms, back of the shoulders, upper back, your hips, your glutes and pelvis, and your feet into the mat. Really noticing those points of contact. Coming back into that deep, expansive breath into the abdomen, feeling it fill up the whole of the belly, the side of the body. Maybe imagining that with every breath you can breathe directly into your hips, directly into your shoulders, directly into any points of tension in your back or your jaw. And just invite them to soften and release a little bit more. We'll just take a few more breaths here. If you like, you'll bring your arms down. Maybe just bring them over your abdomen. Just feel the rise and fall of your breath. And then let's use our hands to help our knees just to come back up to center, and then maybe just walk your feet out to the edge of the mat. Let the knees fall in or drop them side to side for a moment, just easing through the hips. And then just walking the feet out, finding a form of Shavasana that works for you. You might want to be on your back. You might just want to turn onto your side and curl up, or even rest on your tummy, or go and curl up into a chair or on the sofa. But wherever you go, just make sure that your body is relaxed and supported. You feel at ease, and you're giving yourself several minutes just to let these deep stretches integrate, to allow all the stretching that you've done through the fascia just to relax, and really noticing any sensations of release or ease you